Hello, my name is Susan Bacca, and for many years I was on the board of a formal mentoring program for women entrepreneurs in Canada. Today we're here to talk about business mentoring and why you should consider it. So we're going to talk about what mentoring is, the forms of mentoring, why mentors and proteges take part, and I'm also going to tell you how you can get a mentor and some tips for a successful mentoring relationship. And in a few minutes, I will be joined by two women who participated in the program, a mentor and a protege, who will share their hands-on take with being involved in mentoring and what they got out of it. But first of all, let's talk about what mentoring is. It's a one-on-one relationship between a seasoned entrepreneur, the mentor, who helps a less experienced but like-minded woman, business owner, grow her business and expand her capacity. So a mentor will share her knowledge, her skills, her advice, and her experience based on what she knows. It's also an opportunity to collaborate because a mentor can bring a lot to you and you can bring a lot to her. So it's really a win-win situation for both parties. Let's now talk about what mentoring isn't. Well, it's not a passive one-way form of communication. A mentor is there to give you advice and feedback based on what she knows, but it's really up to you, the protege, to take all this in and decide what you want to do and make the best decisions for you. As the protege, you shouldn't expect your mentor to have all of the answers because nobody's an expert at everything. But a good mentor will help guide you to resources or other contacts who can help you if she's unable to answer some of your questions. Other mentoring knots? Well, it's not a quick crutch. It's also not a substitute for formal training, and it's not a way to solicit a new customer. Now, the types of mentoring. Well, mentoring is a form of teaching as old as humanity. You may have had a mentor yourself and not realized it. Somebody in the past, like a school teacher or perhaps a relative who helped you somewhere along the way. In today's world, it's often in the form of formal programs that could be offered by associations or organizations or even companies that will match up individuals. Or it could be an informal relationship where individuals, like-minded individuals, will meet and decide that they want to have some kind of ongoing relationship to help each other. Now, why should you have a mentor? What is the value of it? Well, entrepreneurship can be a lonely journey sometimes. So it's really nice to have somebody who's gone through some growth challenges and can help show you the way so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. This person can also be a great role model to you and inspire you to take your business to new heights. She can also help you with your communication skills, and that will improve the way you do business in many different areas. You can learn about resources and you can develop valuable new contacts. And while mentoring is not intended as a way to forge friendships, oftentimes enduring friendships will result, and this can be a real bonus. You can either find a mentor through a formal program or through approaching somebody who you know and respect, and you'll be surprised how flattered people will be if you ask them to do this for you. Now, why be a mentor? Well, you want to think about giving back. I know most of the mentors that I've met find it extremely gratifying and rewarding to be able to share their wisdom and experiences. It also can revitalize you because you're dealing with like-minded women entrepreneurs. And you too can get new ideas and creative new approaches for your business and even valuable new contacts as well. So just a few tips for a successful mentoring relationship if you should embark on this. First of all, for proteges, up front, tell your mentor what kind of learning style you have. Do you learn best by listening, by doing, by talking? Whatever it is that works for you. You also want to listen carefully. You want to avoid arguing or justifying. Just be open and receptive to new ideas and to any kind of constructive criticism. Make sure that you ask lots of questions. And know that you're responsible for what you learn. You want to be accountable for that. That'll be important to your mentor. And do give your mentor feedback too. Let her know what advice she gives that's most valuable to you. Be respectful of your mentor's time, and don't expect her to do things that go above and beyond what is reasonable. And try to inspire your mentor. That's really a key part of making this a win-win relationship. And if you're a seasoned women business owner and you would like to become a mentor, a few tips for you. Up front, you should review your protege's goals and timelines, and then set up a schedule, but also be flexible when the need arises. You want to be authentic and open, so that means sharing both the good and the bad experiences. You want to listen closely so that you truly understand the learning and personal needs of your protege, so that will build trust. Offer concrete suggestions, and also expect accountability from your protege. Insist on some of that follow-up. And make sure that you share information, resources, and other contacts with your protege. I'd now like to introduce you to the two women who were part of the formal mentoring program that Scotiabank sponsored in Canada. This was a one-year relationship, one-on-one relationship, where they spent 3 hours each month together. And in addition, everybody in the program would get together once a month for lively discussions, which included guest speakers, roundtables, and mentor panels. So to my right here is Judy Parody, who owns Parody Marketing, Inc., and it's a consultancy for large and small businesses, that both in the areas of business processes and strategic marketing. Now, prior to being repurposed as a consultancy, Parody Marketing focused on both strategy and graphic design. As an adjunct professor, Judy also lectures on entrepreneurship at the University of Toronto in Canada. To Judy's right is Lisa Scale, her protege. Lisa is the owner of Bella Photography, which specializes in portrait and wedding photography. A multiple award winner, Lisa has a passion for and specializes in capturing people's personality on portraits, and I can really attest to that from all of the photographs that I've seen Lisa take of people I know. So ladies, thank you very much for joining for this today. So first of all, Lisa, tell us, when did you start your business?
I started my business in 1988, so quite a while ago, but I struggled for a very long time in getting it going.
And tell us a little bit about that, why you decided to start a business.
Well, I really wanted to be in control of my future. I wanted not to be a cap on what I could earn, but I also wanted to have the flexibility because I wanted to have children. So I wanted that flexibility and be in charge of my creative as well.
Mm-hmm. And briefly tell us just a little bit more about what you do.
Well, I like to produce and create personal artwork for families. So getting to know the family, I am able to capture the way they are, capture more of who they are, so that they can have this beautiful artwork on their wall. And it's really history, because the children eventually get to inherit this and be able to enjoy it and remember all those fond memories of when they were growing up.
Great. And Judy, when did you start your business?
Well, a little bit before Lisa. I'll age myself here. 1984, I started Parody Marketing. And basically, Parody Marketing was, or still is, a marketing company that looks after the marketing and or creative needs of mostly blue chip clients. All our clients were the big banks and big organizations. At one point, we had a staff of up to 30, so it was a pretty going concern. I didn't turn it into consultancy till about 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Good. And tell us now, Lisa, why is it that you wanted to get into a mentoring program, or why did you want to have a mentor? What was your expectation?
Well, I was working a lot of hours, and I needed to be able to make more money, and there's just not enough hours in the day. So I felt that I really needed assistance, and there just wasn't anybody I knew to look to for advice or anything. And so I thought if I could be mentored, I also really struggled with life-work balance because I was working all these hours, and we had just, we were starting a family, and it was really hard to be a mom and a business owner, and I was starting to think it couldn't be done. So I really needed to find someone who could tell me it could be done and show me how to do it.
And I think you've told me before that there weren't very many female photographers.
There was not. There was
right.
not. It was mainly a male-dominated career, and so there was nobody to look to. And men ran their businesses so different than how a woman would approach it. And the only other women that were in the business were the wives who would be fixing wedding dresses and checking hair and stuff. And there was no real photographers that were female. So it was a bit of a challenge just getting past that part.
Right.
But like I said, I had nobody to look up to and say, yes, it can be done.
And so why did you choose a formal mentoring program?
I couldn't, because I thought that originally that I should have a mentor in my type of business, in my field, and because there was no women in that, I felt that I needed to find an agency that could help me do that. I really had nobody to look up to, so I didn't have friends to ask.
Okay. Now, Judy, you've been a mentor multiple times. How many?
I have. I was thinking of that, at least 5 or 6, but from a business mentor perspective. But I love mentoring. We were talking about that earlier, and I have mentored high school students. I started a Run for Fun group with a bunch of young girls, and who I still stay in touch with. So I've done a lot of mentoring.
Yeah. And what's the biggest value to you?
The biggest value to me is, the ability to give back. I know that sounds sort of, highfalutin, but really I think I've been very lucky in my life. I've been very fortunate. My business is extremely successful. And there comes a time when you just think that's the right thing to do. I would really have appreciated somebody helping me and telling me things, and if I can help other people avoid the same problems, then it's a plus. And I had the time, and it was just the right thing to do. I love doing it.
And Lisa, did you get what you expected?
Oh, I got way more. I really, in Judy, we were paired up, and at first I had my concerns because she wasn't in the same industry, but what I needed to learn was work-life balance, and Judy really had that down. And so I learned so much from her on how to do that and how to keep in balance, because this is not something that you achieve and then it's done. Life throws things at you. And Judy was able to teach me how to roll with it, if you will, and to find solutions to the struggles or the challenges that I was having. And so it's a process or a learning that I take with me every day. And it helps me every day whenever I come up to something I've never been through before. I don't have to call Judy anymore.
Well, you can.
Yes, but she was able to teach me in a way that I can now problem solve on my own.
Terrific. And now, were there any surprises, Judy, in the...
There were, and I hate to sort of, bring up a negative surprise, but one of the surprises was in this formal mentoring situation is, I'd be paired up with someone and quite prepared to mentor them and find out about their background. And they wouldn't, what you mentioned earlier, you'd be paired up once or twice and the person would disappear, they wouldn't follow through, or they would argue with you, they would feel that they had to justify the way they did things. So that was a bit of a surprise, and it was something that I had to learn to get over, to help them understand that this isn't an adversarial situation. I'm not there to criticize them. I'm there to listen and help.
Not, of course, not your protege.
Not Lisa, no.
What was the biggest aha moment for you in the program, Lisa? Did you have one, eureka kind of?
Well, I think that the biggest thing was almost right away when Judy and I got to know each other a little bit right at the first meeting, to find out that she was a mom, and not only she started her business when her children were very young, and my children were very young at the time, they still are, and that she was able to grow this huge business and still be a mom. And the fact that her children really, really love her, her one child, who is really an adult, lives right next door to her. Their decks adjoin, and her grandchildren are over every day. And I want to have that kind of relationship with my children when they become adults, and I don't want them to think that I put business before them. And so really, just to see that this could be done. I could be a good mom, and I could be a good business owner. So that was really the biggest aha for me. but it was also seeing other women and being inspired by them as well. So I just really enjoyed it. I felt very inspired and very not alone. Not alone.
We talked about how an entrepreneurial journey can be lonely.
And this was just, I always felt, 10 feet tall when I finished a session. So it was very inspiring.
Now you're both in different businesses. Did that pose any kind of challenges when you're mentoring somebody?
No, because the mentoring organization was reasonably careful in pairing up people that had sort of similar businesses. And at the end of the day, business is business. Women are women. We have the same issues, generally speaking. Having said that, I was in a creative background. Lisa's obviously creative background. They would not have paired me up. I don't think it would have made sense to pair me up with a manufacturer, an auto manufacturer or something, unless their specific concerns had to do with marketing. So I think it makes some sense to try and look at the fit. It wouldn't be totally random. But again, because Lisa was a photographer, that's very creative, had the same issues that I had in many ways. So that was not an issue for me, certainly.
Well, at first I thought it was. I really thought, how is she going to help me? But truly, I didn't need help in photography. I had all my schooling, I had all that. So it really was about running a business, and it was about being a mom and running a business. And I'm in marketing, I needed marketing advice and just business sense. So, I learned a lot of things from Judy, but it had really nothing to do with photography per se. So in the end, it really didn't matter. In fact, I think it's actually a positive because she saw things so differently than how I saw them. And she brought really different ideas to me to consider. So I think it's actually a positive thing not to be in the same industry.
Yeah, and I think when we were all part of this mentoring program, at the end of the day, everybody has the same kinds of challenges,
Absolutely.
right? Related to marketing, human resources, financial management, or whatever,
Absolutely.
right? So, yeah. Now, how often did the two of you communicate?
Once a month, we'd get together, and we usually did 3 hours, and we'd be face to face. I would bring spreadsheets or whatever that we were discussing. There was kind of homework.
I gave her homework.
We had homework, which was good because it held me accountable, and I had to get this stuff done. And I won't lie, there were days I did it just before I arrived on her doorstep. But it really made a difference, and it really showed me how to make changes to my business. And I think being together physically was helpful in that respect. But a lot of people in the program did it by telephone, by emails and stuff like that.
Yeah, whatever worked for people.
But at the beginning, it was difficult to cut out the time and drive down there because we were quite a distance away from each other. But in the end, it was well worth it, and it became easier to cut that time out because I knew how valuable it was.
But I've had proteges that like you said, we talked on the phone more frequently, we emailed more frequently, or we met in restaurants or at their home. You just chose to meet at my office, which was great.
And do you think that gender is important in a mentoring relationship? I mean, are women better off with a woman as a mentor, Lisa?
Well, I think that it depends on what you're wanting to learn. Personally, I think that it is really important to have a female role model. And particularly with my work-life balance challenges, I needed a woman to show me that it could be done and to show me how she did it and how she thought outside the box. So I really needed a female, and because I'm also in sales and my main client is female, I really still needed that point of view of another female. So to me, it's really important. I think if you need a mentor, regardless, so if you can only get a male one, that's still really good, but if you had a choice, I'd definitely go with a female mentor.
Judy?
I think I would have the same comments as you would, yes and no. If your issues have to do with work-life balance and all about being a woman and how do you run a business, then I think it's important. If there's strictly business, I had a mentor that was very informal, and it was a man, but he was very good at talking about just business. So at the end of the day, a mentor is a great thing to have, but I think a woman mentor is probably easier and you're more comfortable with. You don't feel as challenged. You don't feel like you're being criticized. So I think that probably makes sense.
So you said you were mentored.
Yes, I
Yes,
was,
yeah.
but totally informally, and it was much, much later in my career, and I just happened to, make friends with a gentleman who was in the same kind of business, and he really didn't have that ego, that competitive, I want to do better than you, so he was wonderful in helping me, but only from a business perspective, and at the end of the day, no, he couldn't understand, why I had to go home at 6 o'clock, or take an afternoon off because a kid was in a baseball game or something.
Right.
So no, he couldn't understand those issues, but he was very valuable from a purely business perspective.
And based on your experience of being a mentor for multiple times, what kind of advice would you give to a protege to get the most out of a mentor?
Very much the same as the points you made, Susan. Listen, don't come in with an ego ready to justify what you're doing. I think it's a knee-jerk reaction when somebody says, have you thought of doing this? Have you thought to justify what you've done? So I think the biggest advice I can give is, first of all, from the very first meeting, make sure that there's a good match. If you're not comfortable, if you're not 100% comfortable from a personality perspective, then walk away. But the second advice I would give is go with an open mind and, be ready to seriously think about what they have to say, rather than justifying how you do things and why you do things. Go with an open mind and open ears,
And Lisa, what do you think makes for a good mentor?
Well, I think someone who listens, also teaches you how to look at your challenges from a different view. If Judy solved all my problems by just giving me the answer, like a cheat sheet, then she would have helped me for that 1 year. But Judy actually taught me how to look at things differently, or how to account for my time, or how to account for my staff's time, or she taught me ways of looking at things to figure out where I was going wrong or where the challenges were, so that I was able to take that forward and run with it in the future. And like I said, work-life balance was my issue. She solved my problem the first year, sure, but life doesn't always keep even and flat. And so she was able to teach me in such a way that I can now help myself, if you will, and I can look at things differently, and I can solve my own problems without having to wait for someone to tell me what to do. So I think not telling your protege all the answers, suggestions, but working through it, going step by step. Well, if we look at it this way, I think that's really important.
And you had some amazing results from your participation in a mentoring program, didn't you?
I did. I did have expectations of what I wanted to achieve, but I blew them right out of the water. I went from losing about $40,000 a year to, within that first year, making $40,000. So my bottom line changed rapidly. With the change of with that financial change, part of the dream that I'd always had was to move out of a storefront and have a studio out in the country. So I wanted a country location, I wanted to build a studio on it, but that takes money, and the bank really couldn't take me serious when I was losing so much money. So with my change in financials and coming across more knowledgeable, I was able to talk them into helping me finance this big change. And so now my studio is located on 23 acres. In a very nice country community, and I work not at home, but across the driveway from home. So I'm close enough to my children to keep them going, but I have my own professional space, and the peace and serenity there is amazing, and for family portrait it really, really works well. And without learning what I did from the mentoring program, I'm not sure I'd ever make it to there.
Would you ever consider becoming a mentor?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that every woman needs one. I really do believe that. The differences that it made in my life. And I just feel so fortunate that I found the program. I feel fortunate that I was paired with such an amazing mentor that I want to give back. I want to help others because I see just how powerful us women are, and I want other women to feel good like I do.
And Judy, what about you? Will you continue to mentor?
Of course, yeah. It's, as you've both mentioned, it goes far beyond being altruistic. It's not about yourself. It does make you feel good, but I learn as much from people like Lisa and from the other proteges that I've had, from the young girls. I learn as much and I get back as much as I give, truly. It's a wonderful thing to do, and I think once you've been fortunate, once your business has done well, I think there is a sense that you want to give back, really. And I would definitely, and I do, I continue doing it all the time, whether it's formal or informal. It's definitely something that I love doing. You know, just to have people like Lisa be so flattering, my goodness. You know.
And the two of you still keep in touch?
We do.
Sure. Yes. Yeah, that's wonderful.
And Judy has this mentor thing down because every time we talk, she's still teaching me something.
Well, thank you both very much for sharing your perspectives. It was fantastic, and I hope that you've all learned about mentoring, and you'll think about getting a mentoring to take your business to new heights.